So, Matt, obviously, we are in the wake of the largest combined mass shootings that we've seen in this country for quite a while. And one of them, at least, I mean, obviously, there are two separate issues here over the course of these two shootings. One that runs through the common one, or the one that they have in common, of course, is the ease in which people can get weapons that allow you to kill multiple human beings in less than a minute, right? The second shooter from Dayton was dead within 30 seconds of shooting his first shot. But by that point, he had killed 9 people and had injured a couple of dozen. And the shooter from El Paso was able to kill 20 people, injuring more. And in that instance, they both shared this access to weapons. They both shared the ability to get large amounts of weaponry. But and we don't really know what inspired the Dayton shooter. I don't know if we'll ever know for sure. But we do have a very, very good sense of what inspired, what drove the El Paso shooter to determine who he was going to shoot and why. Obviously, I think we start with a baseline that there is something psychologically wrong with you if you have the ability to kill that many people, or to kill anybody, really, for that matter. And, people can argue about in the context of the military, but gunning down civilians in a mall, I think we can all agree that there is a baseline, that there's something wrong with you. But what drives you to that can be a very specific thing. And in this instance, the El Paso shooter, like, we know what drove him. We saw his screed, right?
Yes. I mean, I think, he stated quite specifically why he was carrying out the attack that he did. He was very angry in this manifesto that he published at the web forum 8chan about the, quote, Hispanic invasion of Texas. He thought that there was, quote, cultural and ethnic replacement going on with, this sort of Hispanic invasion replacing white people in that state. And he, thought that there were really dire consequences from this. He said that he needed to reclaim my country from destruction. And, these are very consistent with the long-running, white supremacist narrative of the sort of great replacement, as he called it specifically in that manifesto. And, at one point, these ideas had been largely restricted to these sort of fringe forums where only the sort of hardest of hardcore white supremacists would congregate. But that's changed quite a bit in recent years with the rise of Donald Trump and with some pretty severe shifts in Fox News's programming. And at this point, as I wrote yesterday, you don't really need to read this guy's manifesto. If you turn on Fox News on a random weeknight, there's a decent chance that you will encounter these ideas, which are being spread night after night to an audience of millions of people. This is really a mainstreaming of very, as we've seen, dangerous white nationalist, white supremacist ideas, both on a major cable news network and, of course, by the president himself, who has been, saying in speeches and on Twitter that there is an invasion happening, that migrants are threatening to overrun the country, and that it's an emergency and something needs to be done. And this guy decided that something needed to be done too.
I mean, the term invasion is it's a very specific one. And I mean, we even saw a clip, I think it was from May, right, where the president was at a rally. I'm not sure where. I guess he was in the Panhandle of Florida. And he specifically said there's an invasion. There's an invasion in other countries, they can shoot them, but we can't do that. So what can we do? And someone yelled out, we can shoot them. And he said, you can only get away with that here in the Panhandle. And I mean, that person called out, we can shoot them, because that is really, I mean, that's what you do when you're being invaded, right? I mean, this is that there's a reason why they use the term invaded. And it's not, I mean, that's what they're trying to elicit, right? This notion of you should be afraid and you should fight back.
I mean, I think finding the intention in some of these cases can be kind of tricky, but certainly that is what is happening. And this represents a pretty major change, certainly at Fox News in the discourse around this. We did a study on this a few months ago, and we found that while Fox News people were using terms like invasion or invader sort of intermittently earlier in like 2015 and 2016 and 2017, they used it more times than in all three of those years, just in the 30 days leading up to the midterm elections. You'll recall this was when the caravan became a major story. It became a major story literally because Fox News wanted it to be one. In mid-October, there was this caravan that was a couple of months away from getting to the border that was moving up through Central America. And Newt Gingrich went on Fox News and said, this should be the president's election issue. It should be the caravan and Kavanaugh and nothing else from now until the election. And, as I've documented pretty extensively, the president watches hours and hours of Fox News every day, and he takes his cues from that network. He really does pick up political strategy and policy ideas from what he's watching there. And the Gingrich segment was one that he picked up and tweeted about almost immediately. And from that point on, you saw this drumbeat on both Fox News and from the president, pushing the idea that these migrants were coming and that it was an invasion. That was the term that they started using over and over again, often alongside sort of B-roll of columns of young Hispanic men moving towards the border, trying to create this idea of an invading force, when I think we know that this was mainly, lots of women and children, people trying to get here, trying to, become refugees, trying to find a better life. But they were being portrayed as people who were coming to your house to kill you. I mean, that was basically the implication that Fox News was putting out over and over again. I think that's a pretty dangerous thing to have those sorts of ideas over and over again pounded into people. I mean, look, I've spent a lot of time watching Fox News over the years. I've been doing this for 12 years now.
Whoa.
And this stuff has a lot of power. I mean, just the repetition of it and the way it can really sink into people's heads, it has a ton of influence, and it can be a very dangerous thing.
All right, Matt, let's take a break. And when we do, we'll come back, and I want to talk about maybe some specifics so that people really can hear that point that you made at the beginning, which is that if you had not read this guy Screed and you had watched Fox, you would know you don't need to read it. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. We'll be right back with Matt Gaetz.